What's the most effed up way you got back at someone that wronged you? Viewer edition. You know, I'm a big fan of forgive and forget. You're better off. Who cares if they get their comeuppance? You just gotta worry about your own mentality, but sometimes you gotta teach someone a lesson. Safely, folks? Can I just stress that you should do it safely and... Let's read some stories. Story 1. Quick content warning, folks. This story does deal with a bit of abuse from parents. It's a little bit darker, so if you want to not be subject to that, just scroll on to the timestamp that our editors hopefully put on screen for us, and we'll continue on. My dad physically and mentally tortured me and my mom for 19 years. He cheated on her with a woman and a man from our church. My dad was a preacher and said he could do what he wanted because God forgives him, and so should she. He discovered he could be the center of attention if he was constantly in and out of the hospital for various things, finding loopholes along the way to get painkillers so he could get high whenever he wanted. His final hospital visit, the doctors and nurses weren't buying his crap, so he furiously demanded his discharge. I had to leave school to pick him up and take him home. When we got there, he immediately got in his bed and asked me to hand him his pain pills. I gave it to him and figured since I was home, I'd get some sleep. I was woken up by my mom a few hours later, screaming that my dad was dead. I rushed to their bedroom and helped get him off bed so she could do CPR while I called 911. I went back into the bedroom and saw a pill bottle under the bed. He had his 19-year-old son hand him the thing he killed himself with. This effed me up for years after. We sat through the funeral and services for him where we had to listen to all of the stories about how much of a saint he was. Not long after we got his ashes, we moved and decided his remains were not allowed in the house. We put his ashes in a barbecue grill in the backyard, and that's where they stayed for 5 years. One day while moving, I saw a couple squirrels go into the side of the grill, so I opened it after I finished up. His ashes were spread everywhere, mixed with squirrel, pee, and crap, and there was a nest in there too. He was used as a toilet and effed on by vermin. I placed the grill on the curb on trash day and watched it get crushed by the trash truck. So my dad's final resting place is in a dump somewhere. Rest in pee. I mean, the first thing that I will say is... it's absolutely not your fault. You weren't getting revenge on this person. You gave him the pain pills that you thought he needed or whatever or whatnot. So I wouldn't feel bad. And he sounds like an awful person. And I am sorry that you had to live with someone like that and deal with that stuff. And I hope that your life has only gotten better. Story 2. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me, so I decided to tell all our mutual friends, mostly her friends that I became friends with, exactly what she thought of them. And I told them I knew secrets only she was meant to know, 'cause I did. I burned all her friend bridges, the ones who knew what she did already didn't like her, and ended up dating her former best friend after that. 5 years, and things are going great. Story 3. Skipped school after a neighbor kid bullied me the day before. Snuck into his house, went to his bathroom, poured out half of his conditioner, and replaced it with Nair. 3 days later, it's summertime, he starts wearing a ski hat. His bully buddy started bugging him about it, then pulls the cap off, along with half his hair. I laughed so hard it started an asthma attack. LOL. I mean, okay, the kid was a bully, and... doing something that makes them lose their hair for a little while. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I will say, folks, be careful with Nair. It's not an undangerous chemical, especially for something that's going to be going around eyes. Like, yeah, the person's a bully, shave their head, but don't blind them for life. Story 4. So for a long time, my grandmother would treat like absolute crap. She never explained a reason, she just did it. One day she took $53.95 from me when I was 12. She told me the money was to help fix up their house. Found out later that my from my grandpa, she didn't do that, so she decided to take my money to buy a bicycle from a yard sale. The bicycle was never used. After finding out about this, I began to tilt every single painting and picture in their house in a way her OCD would notice. She has a really bad OCD. My grandpa found out and said nothing. For an entire summer, I did this and got away with it. Story 5. In 3rd grade, I was a really soft kid. People may think that that's normal for a 3rd grader, but my school had pretty tough kids. I would cry at least 1 or 2 times a month, and there was an a-hole who would always take advantage of it. It was only the first 2 months of school, and I'd only cried once so far, but this guy had at least 15 scenarios where I supposedly cried. This dude would always bring them up when the most people were around, and he would always reenact the crying like my entire family had died and my limbs got cut off. One time on PE day, we were doing a sit-up test, and my water bottle was metal, and it was his turn to do the test. So I stood on the bench next to him and dropped my water bottle square on his balls. And get this, he started crying, and everyone saw. The best part was the people who heard him talk about my crying scenarios in the past never let him forget it. Edit. Jesus, I don't think I've ever gotten so many likes on a comment. Story 6. This wasn't really on purpose, but a guy and girl were having an argument in school. Being the nosy little butt I was, I told them to quiet down and calm down. The girl decked me in the face in response. Thing is, I had a cup of boiling hot water I was going to use to make cup noodles, and I accidentally flung it in her face. Made a big commotion about that. Rumor has it that she got 2nd-degree burns all over her face, which messed it up, and she moved away. Though I'm kind of positive that my water wasn't that hot. I mean, again, it's not really getting revenge if it's an accident. You had hot water, and she hit you and you, and got her with some water. She got revenge on herself. Karma hit her back immediately. She punched rubber karma and the punch came. I'm not saying anything that makes sense. Just ignore me. Story 7. I was told not to hit girls, so when a girl kept being mean to me at school, I walked into the homeroom and took a note out of my pocket. I then unfolded it as I sat across from her. It was a letter she wrote to her crush. I got her to agree to stop bullying me in order to keep my mouth shut. And if you want to know where I got it in the first place, me and her crush had PE together. Story 8. I used to have a neighbor kid who used to bully me, and I had a fire ant colony, a hobbyist ant keeper. I released the ants in the soil under the fence between mine and their yard, technically allowed since it was a local caught colony and the release was in my own backyard. The bully got stung at least 3 times over the next few weeks and after that never messed with me again. Story 9. I'd be happy to tell you about this. During my freshman year of high school, I was informed by a close friend I was being bullied on Instagram. That was all because I liked Star Wars. So what if I like Star Wars? What's the problem with that? As a result of the incident, I got all 5 people responsible suspended for a whole week. I may look all sweet and innocent, but that doesn't mean I can't fight back. I mean, maybe the reason that they made fun of you because you like Star Wars is they were all really into Star Trek. Huh? The superior space saga. You're all talking about Bubba Fett, and they're all like Jean-Luc Picard and space. I don't know. Story 10. So this is an old story from my great-grandmother. Just a bit of background on her. She lived in Poland until World War II, and she worked on a farm. When she came to England and bought a really nice house from working ground up. Got a council house, that's it. She also got a job on a mill with my great-granddad. Someone's dog pooped on her lawn, and the owner refused to pick it up, so my great-grandmother posted it through their mailbox. Story 11. Had a girl who was a major kiss butt at this one job I worked at. The type of kiss butt that runs out to the parking lot to open up the boss's car door like she's some kind of sad chauffeur. I didn't care in the slightest until I realized she was gunning for me and this other girl that worked there. My boss liked me and this girl. It peed her off to no end. Once I figured out that her missing things threw her into a miniature tantrum, I stole her work keys and put them behind this shelf. She remained calm for about 10 minutes, then started talking loudly. Then she kicked over a chair hella hard in front of everyone. My boss sent her home.
On her way out, I walked up to her and threw her keys, which threw her into more of a rage. She got fired, and I just watched her leave, sipping my work coffee. Story 12. There was this girl in my school who used to enjoy spreading rumors about others, and towards the end of the year, I heard she was spreading fake rumors about me. I found out midweek and confronted her on Friday about it. She denied it, of course, but I had audio evidence. I took revenge by pretending I had committed self-termination by sending her a video of myself crying with a knife to my neck. I planned this only because I had an appointment on Monday and I wouldn't be in school, so then it would actually look like I actually did kill myself. My friend told me she was crying because she felt guilty, apparently.
Okay, I'm all for, fighting rumor fire with rumor fire, or messing with people in ways that don't physically harm them and stuff like that. If you are going to seek out revenge, I don't think joking about that topic, though, that is not something that I would lightly joke about, because there are other people who've really been affected by that, and if they heard that you were just using that as a joke to screw with someone, that's gonna paint you in a pretty bad light. So I would not recommend going that route, but that's just my opinion.
Story 13. I was dating a guy in the same grade as me during my junior year. He broke up with me at a mutual friend's birthday party. About 2 months later, a close guy friend of his moved back to the area. One day I skipped class with a friend because we didn't feel like going. We knew the bleachers were always left out and thus easy to sneak under and hide from teachers monitoring the halls. We got caught because I freaked out on them when we found him going down on his secret boyfriend that was also his close friend. Why did this make me go nuclear on their high school reputations? Because his close friend was dating me as a cover story when he was really dating my ex. My ex knew and said nothing about it to me. Story 14. So this one girl had fun breaking guys' hearts. Happened to a friend of mine and then to me. She would make men fall in love with her, be really cute, just to then really strategically make them sad. Over and over. I don't even have the words for it. English is not my maternal language. I'm pretty good in the things I do, and after a gig of a band I played drums in, she talked to me again. Went there randomly and saw me. I knew the game, played it well. We slept together. She fell in love with me. She told me she was still breaking guys' hearts and felt so well doing it. This was the moment that gave me the motivation to fulfill my plan. Broke her heart, was mean, made her beg not to break up, and then broke up. Felt worse doing it than how I felt back then, but I wouldn't let her do this to anyone no more. A common friend later told me this hasn't happened again. Story 15. I used to live in a boarding house and there's a shared fridge where everyone could use it. I lost my food several times and there's no way to find out who ate it since there's a lot of people there. So what I do is I put expired food there and what do you know, it's gone. A few days later I overheard that someone got a stomachache because they ate the food from the fridge and the guy didn't even live there. He just went there to visit his friend who lives there. I just walked away with a smile on my face. I guess that'll teach him a thing or two about eating stuff that's not yours.
I don't get why people are always stealing roommates' food and stuff like that. What a weird thing to do. Not weird, skeezy. I don't know. Don't steal other people's food. And you know what? If people leave out, food that's, expired to trick the person who's stealing, or maybe, had a little, habanero hot sauce or something in there to goof with you, that's on you. You're stealing the food. Don't.
Story 16. My roommate at the time played a prank on me, so I thought exploiting his mild cat allergy would be smart. Went to my mom's house, gathered up cat hair, brushed the cat, and tossed it all in a baggie, then put it in the roommate's pillowcase. Next morning, his eyes were swollen almost entirely shut. He could barely talk, and he was super raspy sounding. I frantically cleaned the pillowcase, told him about this prank more than 5 years later, and while he laughed, he still remembered that morning and was grumpy. Story 17. In 6th grade, I had a substitute teacher who always called me Coffee because I always looked tired every class he taught. He'd single me out. One day, my friend and I were fighting, and he got on my case. I snapped and cursed him out. He took me to the principal office and called my mom. I convinced them that he was picking on me and calling me names. He got let go. He's currently homeless and rides his bike around my city every day. I told him I felt bad about it, but he insists it wasn't my fault, but I know it was.
It's not your fault. Because the teacher was, picking on you. And you reported what the teacher was doing. Like, he shouldn't have been doing that with grade schoolers. That's not cool. And, maybe that might have been kind of extreme for him to, get fired for it. But, he should have known better. And, hopefully he'll get back on his feet and, get a different teaching job, learn from that something, but no, that's not on you for reporting a teacher being a jerk.
Story 18. Not me, but a friend of a friend sewed skippers into curtains and I think cushions before her cheating ex-husband's holiday with the new fiancé. She also put grass seed under the carpet, watering them, and turned the heating up in his house. Side note, I don't know if she broke in to do this or had a key, but imagine coming back to that. Story 19. This story isn't as serious as the other ones, but I thought I'd share it. I'm not all that vengeful of a person. That or I don't get wronged a lot. Probably the former. Anyways, a friend threw chicken at my eye, and in a split-second reaction, I shoved her pretty hard. It normally wouldn't do much damage, but her tailbone was broken, and I didn't connect the dots fast enough to know that this would dislocate her tailbone. It did indeed dislocate her tailbone. After that, we tried to do the same in the opposite direction, and it turns out it ended up dislocating it in another direction. She got an x-ray, and yeah, it was broken and dislocated. We're still friends. The only reason I was so comfortable with shoving her was because that was just the way we behaved. We both at some point hurt one another, but that was the most extreme either of us did. Story 20. When I was in high school, I started doing BJJ because I'm a small guy. Wanted to gain some weight and work out, and I'm a huge MMA fan, so I started getting seriously into training and sparring with some friends who also did BJJ. Senior year, a month before graduation, we literally did nothing but graduation practice and free days for the whole month, and our gym coach left the wrestling mats out. One of the football jocks, the a-hole who thinks his D is bigger than everyone else's, saw me and my homie rolling and doing some simple drills because we went to the same gym. Jock comes up and brags about his wrestling skills and how BJJ was fake and doesn't work in a street fight. So me, 115 pounds and 18 years old, told him, 18 also but roughly 170-ish pounds, if he could make me tap out, I'd give him $5, but if I made him tap, he had to leave us alone because he's annoying. He agreed, being cocky, and even asked if he needed to handicap himself. I said, no, just do what you do in wrestling practice. He squared up, and just as I expected, he shot my legs. I let him take top mount because he thought with his weight I would just be stuck, but I put him in a triangle choke and he just squirmed trying to get out. I told him to tap, and he said it wasn't that bad, so I locked it in tighter, progressively getting tighter the more he squirmed. His face started turning red, and I could see a vein in his head started to bulge, so I let go. He kept bragging, saying he never tapped, and I gave up, but there was 7 or 8 people that just watched my 115-pound butt almost put him to sleep. 5 years later, and I'm a purple belt 2-stripe. That's 2 away from black belt for those curious.
So, I was actually in wrestling in junior high and my freshman year of high school. And I was pretty good at it, to the point where, got a little bit cocky, and one of the head coaches was a smaller guy. Like, I was, I want to say, 160 at the time or something. And this coach, couldn't have weighed more than 120. He was a smaller, wiry guy. And we gave him some crap about it until one day he went to, all of the bigger kids, and he's just like, any one of you can wrestle me. And if you choose to wrestle me, if you can pin me, you're good. And he gave some reward, I don't remember, but he said, any of you whom I pin are going to do a 1 mile run. And we were already tired. It was near the end of the thing. And I watched some guys who were bigger and much more muscular than me get in there, and small or not, coach whooped them. It wasn't even a contest. There was not one person who came close. So, when it comes to fights and wrestling and all that kind of stuff, Size does not matter as much as people might think.
Story 21. My story isn't as sinister as others, but when I was a student at university, I lived in dorms, UK. For about 3 months, I constantly had my food half-eaten or outright stolen, shared kitchen. I told the dorm staff several times and nothing came of it. My 500 IQ play that I'm still proud of today, I continued to let the food thief do it for an extra month, as that extra month happened to be exam week. So the weekend before our exams, I went to my local ASDA and bought 2 boxes of laxatives. On Sunday, I think, I made a large fancy fruitcake with said laxatives and put it in the dorm fridge. The next day, 2/3 of the fruitcake was gone, and I didn't have a crumb. Go figure. Never knew definitively who it was, but I'm assuming it had to be this hot chick 3 doors away from me, as I never saw her take our usual bus or from uni on exam week. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, as the saying goes. Story 22. An a-hole who one time punched my friend in the face would often try to intimidate others out of their food and drink. Saw this happen to a different friend a lot. So I bought a bottle of apple juice, drank half of it, went to the toilet, peed in it, and walked by the guy waiting for him to ask for it. I then willingly handed it over. Not sure if he actually drank it. I just power walked away, heart beating fast. Story 23. Back when I was in 8th grade, 2017, I used to do a type of charity work for my school, which was Catholic, at a nursing home. There was this chick with no legs. She was 17 years old, she lost her legs in a car accident, and was apparently kind of a 304 who kept flirting with me and then gradually asked me out a few times. I was afraid of directly saying no, so I mainly tell her things like, maybe I'll think about it, because I was afraid of everyone coming at me and accusing me of body shaming. Later, she then showed up at my house in her wheelchair and asked me again. She was all dressed up too, so clearly she was expecting me to say yes. I quickly had a private chat with my dad about it, and he basically guilt-tripped me into going out with her. We went to a Mexican restaurant, and at first, things were going good, but then we gradually, out of nowhere, she started crap-talking to me for no reason. At first, I just sort of took it, but later I retaliated. Then we started arguing back and forth until she then insulted me with this. I may have anger problems, but at least my aunt doesn't have cancer. Ooh, I was so peed off. I wanted to knock her out, but I figured it'd be too quick of a revenge. So I decided to just drop the subject and we'd keep going on with our date, and I was able to convince her to stay with me. Later, I got her to climb a very tall pine tree with me and she lost her balance and fell. However, she cut a branch and was hanging onto it. After that, I told her, "So your aunt doesn't have cancer, huh?" "Well, I can climb down a tree on my own and walk away." I climbed down the tree, left her hanging from a branch, dragged her wheelchair to the edge of the park, and then went home.
I'm not sure that the punishment fits the crime, so to speak. She was definitely in the wrong to mention your aunt's cancer. Like, that's way out of line. And I don't know how the rest of the conversation went. I don't know her side of things and stuff, so I don't want to do like a blanket judgment. But that seems maybe like a little bit of an extreme response, at least from the details that I have been given. I don't know, folks. Just whatever happened is just like putting someone's hand in warm water at a sleepover, huh?
Story 24. When I was 14, I was always shy to socialize, and I was in a poor health state physically and mentally. My school used to sell milkshakes. There was a kid who'd steal them off of me, much bigger size than me, so I was hopeless to prevent it. I spiked a milkshake with 5 laxative packets, and I deceived him into taking it from me, checked up on his stall, and he forgot to flush. It was red. 5 years later, I have no regrets, and now I do calisthenics, soon to be going to Army BMT.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.